Okay, so in this segment, we're going to discuss the drugs for the treatment of angina. Um, some of these agents we have already taken up in the first lecture on antihypertensives. So we're going to revisit them in the context of treatment for angina pectoris in this segment. Okay. So let's look at what angina is all about, what are what is the pathophysiology, so we can later on understand how the pharmacologic interventions work. Okay, so um, angina pectoris, which translates to chest pain, is the main or chief symptom of chronic coronary artery disease, no? And this is often results because there is an imbalance between the demand for oxygen of the myocardium and the oxygen and the delivery of oxygen-laden blood to this tissue. No? So this imbalance will lead to ischemia, and with ischemia, you have the buildup of acid metabolites, and this is the one that will trigger pain, which is often described as a squeezing pain or chest heaviness or pain or tightness, no, in the chest or the to be more specific, the precordial area, as you can see in the picture, no. Now, the most frequent reason for this imbalance between demand and delivery is narrowing of the coronary arteries, usually by atheroma. Okay, so there are several types of angina. Um, your effort or classic angina, or what is known as chronic stable angina in some literature, is the one that is typically resulting from chronic CAD with atheromatous narrowing of the coronary arteries, no, the large coronary arteries. So that during physical exertion, when myocardial oxygen demands increase, no, the narrowing of the coronaries will preclude delivery of enough um, oxygen-laden blood to the area. Hence, you will have ischemia and the buildup of acid metabolites. No? In some situations, the ischemia will result from transient spasm in certain segments or areas of the blood vessel, but it's usually in those areas with underlying atheromas. No? So this is what you call your vasospastic or Prince-Metal variant angina. Sometimes the ischemia may be silent, and we call them silent or ambulatory ischemia, in which case you don't have any symptoms. You don't have the classic chest pain that is manifested with effort angina. Now, when there is increased coronary resistance or the presence of small blood clots in areas of atherosclerotic plaques, or when there is partial occlusion of the vessels from thrombi, usually arising from plaques that rupture, no, atherosclerotic plaques that rupture, the chest pain can occur even when the person is at rest. So in this particular situation, you already label this as unstable angina or acute coronary syndrome. So unstable angina is an indication of progression from a previous stable angina. Okay. So correction of this imbalance may be achieved by lowering oxygen demand and or increasing blood flow. No? So decreasing cardiac workload and or relieving occlusion or spasm. In acute coronary syndrome, for example, the therapeutic objective is to reestablish and maintain vessel patency as soon as possible, okay, to prevent uh, worsening of the ischemic injury. Regardless of presentation, all patients with coronary artery disease should undergo uh, lifestyle modification so that there will be good lipid lowering and blood pressure control. So this is essential part of uh, patient education. Okay, so traditionally the pharmacologic interventions will mostly act on reducing myocardial oxygen demand and its determinant factors like heart size, heart rate, contractility, and blood pressure. No? So to achieve this, we utilize three groups, and you probably are familiar with this already from the previous lecture on hypertension. No? So you have your nitrates, nitrites, your CCBs, calcium channel blockers, and then your beta blockers. Some of these agents, like your nitrites and CCBs, may also um, cause redistribution of blood to ischemic areas of the myocardium. Okay, so let's begin first with looking at the key features of nitrates and nitrites. No, so the this group of agents will act by causing dilatation of your peripheral capacitance vessels or your veins. No, so this will reduce preload because peripheral capacitance vessels dilatation will decrease venous return to the heart. No, and therefore it reduces preload. It reduces the stretch in the ventricular chambers and therefore reduces the force of contraction. And this negative inotropic effect will translate into lower myocardial oxygen demands. No? Your organic nitrates will also exert vasodilatory effects on coronary arteries. No? That makes them extremely useful for the Prince metal or the vasospastic type of angina. And organic nitrates also may have a, um, inhibitory effects on platelet aggregation. The oldest prototypes, or what we call the traditional um, nitrates, will be exemplified by nitroglycerin. No? And then another traditional agent is isosorbide dinitrate. But all of these prototypes under this group will have the same mechanism of action and they have the same toxicities. Uh, but they vary in terms of the extent to which they induce tolerance and to the vasodilating effects and also the extent of inhibition of antiplatelet action. No? So especially with development of tolerance, this will be the one main reason that limits its use in a long-term basis. Okay. All right. So uh, as I mentioned, these are the two traditional agents which have very low bioavailability of only about 10 to 20%. And this is because they undergo large extent of first pass, no? Which they are deactivated by hepatic nitrate oxidase. There are sublingual formulations of nitrates which bypass um, this event, no? Because of the sublingual route, and therefore they are um, uh, enter the circulation faster, and they provide uh, fast therapeutic effects. No? However, they are given only in small doses, and they have only very short duration of action of about 15 to 30 minutes. So for maintenance purposes, it's the long-acting preparations that are utilized. No? There are also buccal and transdermal patches of nitroglycerin, okay, which can also bypass the first pass effects by hepatic nitrate reductase. No? Okay. Um, Generally, the parent organic nitrates will have very short half-lives, no, of only about a few minutes. But they get to be metabolized inside the body, and its active metabolites will be the ones that provide the long-term clinical effects. No? For example, the metabolite of isosorbide dinitrate is isosorbide mononitrate. Okay, and isosorbide mononitrate is the one that provides the prolonged vasodilating effects. No? Um, Currently, we have already synthesized isosorbide mononitrate as a drug in itself, no? Which, when given, has an oral bioavailability of about of 100%. No? Nitrates and nitrites are excreted through the kidneys. Okay, so these are the various forms of nitrates and nitrites. So you have your slow release tablets, the sublingual tablets, you even have the ointment, your patches, okay, you have the injectables, and you have oral sprays, no, and transdermal patches of nitroglycerin. Then you have your tablets also. So this diagram will be the proposed mechanism by which nitroglycerin and the rest of the nitrates will bring about relaxation in vascular smooth muscles. No? So nitrates will stimulate endothelial cells to release nitric oxide, no, or nitrosothiol, or what we call the endothelium derived releasing factor, or EDRF. No, this activates the enzyme guanylate cyclase, which causes generation of cyclic guanosine monophosphate, or GMP, and this is the one that decreases cytosolic uh, free calcium, bringing about vasodilation in the smooth muscles. No? So this is the end effect, which is vascular dilatation. Okay, so your so uh, to reiterate, nitroglycerin causes vasodilation by way of releasing nitric oxide. No? So your nitrates are first bioactivated enzymatically by glutathione S transferase, which removes the nitrate. No? So there are other enzymes that are also involved in denitration of isosorbide, for example. No? So when nitrate ion is released, it is converted to nitric oxide. And this is the one that activates guanylyl cyclase. Now, before we go to the other effects, let me emphasize that nitrates will produce reflex tachycardia if given in excessive doses, no? And also with, especially with prolonged use, they are associated with development of tolerance. No? Tolerance is when the clinical effects diminish with time, no? Despite use of the agents. So, parang nawawalan ng bisa yung gamot with prolonged use. Okay? Now, nitroglycerin and your nitrates and nitrites will relax all smooth muscles, no? But they will have no effects on the skeletal muscles or the myocardium. Okay? So let's look at the effects on the vascular smooth muscle. So as indicated in the slide, they dilate the capacitance vessels, but um, also resistance vessels, no? But it's usually the veins that dilate first because they are more sensitive to its effects. So you can induce uh, venodilatation at lower levels than arterial vasodilation. So the least vasodilating effects are seen in the arterioles and precapillary sphincters. No? So in diseased vessels, those with um, atheroma deposition, they do not automatically dilate, no? So it depends on the atheroma deposition. If the atheroma is deposited concentrically, meaning in that segment, the entire circumference of the vessel has atherosclerotic deposition, then your nitrates will not cause vasodilation in that area, simply because in that area where you have concentric deposition of atheroma, you don't have any normal vascular endothelium, no? And it's this tissue that produces nitric oxide, no? This is where your nitrates will act, no? So areas of concentric um, atheroma deposition in the blood vessels usually do not respond. No? That segment will not dilate in the presence of nitrate because of absence of normal endothelium. But when the atheroma is eccentric, no, it does not involve the entire circumference of the vessel wall in that area, then um, that area can respond to nitrite and nitrates because there are remaining normal um, vascular endothelium. Okay. The venodilatation, as mentioned, reduces the preload because you reduce venous return to the heart. No? So in turn, this reduces cardiac size and also pulmonary vascular resistance also goes down. No? To a lesser extent, your nitrates and nitrites will also have some uh, negative inotropic effect, no? Also as produced by, also because of nitric oxide, no? So there's a certain diminution in the strength of contraction of the heart, and this is also due to the effects of nitric oxide. Okay, so taken together, all of these will be beneficial for patients with heart failure, especially when the preload is already elevated. No, the effects on the responsive coronaries will improve blood flow to the area. No? And there are good studies that indicate that nitroglycerin may induce redistribution of blood flow to ischemic areas. No? Okay. Because it's the capacitance vessels that are that undergo prominent vasodilation in response to nitrate treatment, there is the risk of orthostatic hypotension. So you should always warn your patients about abruptly assuming an upright position from a uh, originally supine position, no? So you have to instruct them to not get out of bed too fast, no, because of the risk of orthostatic hypotension, especially in the elderly, no? Now, the use of nitrates can also lead to dilatation of your meningeal and temporal arteries and pulsations in these areas. So this is the cause of throbbing headaches that patients may experience with the use of this medication. Now, with excessive hypotension, uh, the arterial baroreceptors are uh, activated, and this is responsible for the reflex tachycardia, the increased cardiac contraction, and salt and water retention, which are your compensatory mechanisms, which attempt to return blood pressure to normal. Okay. So these are also the responses that are implicated in the development of uh, tolerance to these agents. Okay. The antiplatelet effects are brought about by the increase in the levels and activity of CGMP. No? Um, Hence, they're also very useful in, especially IV nitroglycerin, in uh, unstable angina. Okay, so other effects will be in rare circumstances, although this is really quite, the risk is really quite low. There's a potential for development of PET hemoglobinemia, no? Because of interaction of the nitrite ion with hemoglobin. Um, but this is usually very low in therapeutic doses, no? IV sodium nitrate or amyl nitrate, in fact, are uh, the traditional ingredients of the antidote kit or cyano kit for cyanide poisoning, no? Because the methemoglobin methemoglobin that is formed will have high affinity to the cyanide ion that attaches to cytochrome C oxidase, no? Um, and restores the ability of the cell to utilize oxygen. Okay? Now, in terms of toxicities, these are basically extensions of the pharmacologic actions as indicated in the slide, no? In patients with elevated intracranial pressure, the increase in intracranial pressure may be aggravated by the use of nitrates, uh, and in the same manner that they may induce headaches, no? As mentioned earlier. So the patches, uh, in uh, in cases when you have to defibrillate a patient, no, you have to remove the nitroglycerin patches in the patient first before you apply your defibrillator to avoid burns, no, because application of defibrillator with the nitrogen patches still there on the patient may ignite and cause burns. no? So these are removed before application of your defibrillator pads. Okay. So with prolonged use, we keep on repeating this, this tolerance thing that develops. No, actually, it's not well understood, but on the slide are the possible reasons that are offered why tolerance develops with prolonged use of nitrates. No? So could be diminished bioactivation. So you have less release of nitric oxide. Um, it could be because of overpowering systemic compensatory responses, and also the tendency to retain salt and water, um, which is observed 1 to 2 days after initiation of a long-acting nitrate, no? And nitrosylation of guanylyl cyclase, which effectively uh, makes this enzyme less active. No? Now, cysteine supplementation or the administration of certain antioxidants may reverse tolerance. No? And as I mentioned uh, before, the extent of tolerance will be variable between amongst the nitrate prototypes. No? So with the long-term use of nitroprusside, reduced response is not common, no? As well as other organic nitrates when we compare it to the traditional nitroglycerin. Okay. Sublingual nitroglycerin will lose potency when exposed to light. So this is very important patient education. No? So when your sublingual tablets are exposed to light, heat, or moisture, they lose their potency. So storage is an important patient education point. No? So they should be instructed to keep these tablets in the original brown glass bottle. Usually, when you buy sublingual nitrates, they are contained in this brown bottle. So you keep them in this brown bottle, and make sure that the cap is secured tightly, and this is stored at room temperature, no, away from heat or direct sunlight. Okay. So these are this table summarizes the effects of your nitrate. So you have your beneficial effects and harmful effects. No, so you read on this table to summarize the concepts that we have gone through earlier. Okay, so because of rapid onset and short duration of activity, the sublingual nitrates or tablets are used for prompt relief of angina. So they are not for maintenance or um, the long-acting agents are the ones that are used for maintenance. No? Nitroglycerin by IV infusion is another method of delivery that is fast-acting. No? And but this is used only for severe and recurrent chest pain at rest for acute coronary syndrome or your unstable angina. And the effect will immediately wear off when you discontinue the infusion. So the long-acting formulations are the buccal um, uh, formulations, the transdermal and the oral or the tablets. No? So tolerance can develop with prolonged use. So one strategy is to have a nitrate-free period of about 8 hours between doses, no? To prevent development of tolerance.